understand what the breathing system does. The air you breathe in, because of the zinc oxide, carries the strength of the motion of the man, the emotion, the feeling, which itself feeds into the soul of the man. The higher strength level which are needed for the soul is taken by the soul when the emotion is fed the correct way. It's not a one-way system that you continuously take from the soul. You have to feed the soul. It's very much like the rain on the surface of this planet. Raindrops does not come down. It goes up from the surface of the oceans as a vapor up and rains back down. If it doesn't rain down, there is no ocean. When you feed your emotion, the surplus, what is needed, will be taken by the soul. Soul is a living entity. It needs to be fed as long as it feeds. In so many times, in so many teachings, we explain this. If you understand how the structure of the brain works, when you breathe, you allow certain amount of energy to be absorbed by the lung itself. The structure of the lung is a motor system for the control not of only the air, but the amount of energy is taken by the brain and the soul. Is a pump of the brain, is the pump of the soul. Air is connected to the amino acid structure of the brain of the man. The rhythm of the breathing, in conjunction with the rhythm of the heart, creates the condition for the brain of the man to absorb energy from the environment of his surroundings. If it has been a puzzle to the world of medicine and to the man, that where the nourishment and the energy comes to the brain of the man without any blood vessels, now the man understands. The heart rhythm, which is part of the feeding of the physicality of the emotion of the man, in conjunction with the collector of the energy from the environment, which is the lung of the man, creates a pumping structure for the brain above it to be able to absorb energy from the environment of his living. The heart beats, the lung expands and closes. It creates a field extraction and feeding that the brain is like a pump. If you've seen those blow pumps, that's all it is. That's how our brain, without circulation of any blood vessels, receives energy. This is why when the heart stops, the brain stops. Because the heart and lung are part of the twin star, which the soul and the brain is the other. When one stops, the other one has got nothing to give. And the soul receives the confirmation of the end of the existence, and it takes a new position. Because the companion which was feeding it is not there anymore. It looks for a new dimension. This is why when we die, our souls leaves our body, because it's collaborate to change the physical energy into the energy level of the soul, which is the brain of the man, is not there anymore. Because the feeder of the brain cells of the energy is a pumping of the heart, which as it contracts, you have to understand, the lung and the heart are not just the liquid pumps, they are the flow of the field pumps. As they contract and they expand, they create the absorption of the energy to the brain and the soul of the man from the environment. That is for the first time man understands why we don't have any blood vessels in our brain. Where does the energy come from? We always assume it comes from the body. But the brain of the man receives its power, its energy, its existence through and only through the environment it exists. This goes back with the teaching which we done and you could understand. We said always, even if you listen to the teaching of yesterday and then interviews, he said you need calcium to be the seed of the cell of the brain. Then we explained in the previous teachings that the calcium comes from the skull. And in that process, coming from the skull of the man, it comes down according to the energy which comes from outside into the inside of the body of man from his environment. This is why we shape different. This is why we have different mentality in different part of the world, because the environmental fields in that area gives us that kind of a structure of thinking and looking. So for the first time man understands that the energy and the construction for the structure of the brain of the man comes through its environment and not through its physical part. If you don't have contraction or reduction and increase and the filtering of the breathing from the heart, the brain will not function, because it's the twin star of the fields of the brain, of the soul. As every time your heart contracts and you hear plum plum, or you hear your breathing, it's not just a physical noise, it's the variation in the magnetic gravitational field which these create, which with it is like sucking in energy into the brain of the man and getting rid of what the brain doesn't need through the lung of the man, through the blood of the man. This is why we have no blood cells, we have no feeding cells, because a plasma takes totality from its surrounding. Maybe for the first time, those who are physicians and can understand this, can expand the knowledge of the man in the next step, that in the deep space, by absorbing energy from environment, we do not need to use the physicality to be part of it, as we choose where to be. For the first time, the world understands the true way that its soul and its emotion absorb energy from the environment of the